Hello, I'm Dr. Gökhan GÖNEN. I am an obstetrician and gynecologist at Etimesgut Site Ertuğrul State Hospital, Ankara in Turkey. I would like to explain my thoughts on how scientific research results can be used in making decision processes in artificial intelligence with the help of BIOS theorem under the title of BIOS theorem and artificial intelligence in first trimester screening test. So let's try to understand the relationship between BIOS theorem and artificial intelligence through our own research. Investigation of association with first trimester free human chorionic gonadotropin beta, pregnancy-associated plasma protein A, and adverse pregnancy outcomes. When a new life journey begins, as parents, the anxiety that comes after happiness leaves its place to questions. As a physician, our duty is to help parents to establish a healthy family with their babies in this journey of unknown. We have to screen pregnancy in certain periods to classify and find high-risk pregnancies. First trimester screening tests were found to be effective for trisomy 21 screening. This screening technique is used to evaluate fetal nuclear translucency ultrasound and maternal serum markers, pregnancy-associated plasma protein A, and free human chorionic gonadotropin beta. The insulin-like growth factor system plays an important role in regulating ovarian follicular development and steroidogenesis. PAPA is a secreted metalloproteinase responsible for the cleavage of insulin-like growth factor binding protein 4 in the ovary. PAPA has an important role in modulating ovarian function, placentation, placental function, female fertility by controlling of the bioavailability of ovarian insulin-like growth factor. If the level of PAPA is insufficient to successfully cleave insulin-like growth factor, insulin-like growth factor remains in its bond inactive form, possibly leading to diminished fetal and placental growth. Several publications have shown statistically significant associations between low PAPA levels and preeclampsia, fetal loss, preterm birth, intrauterine growth restriction, but they have failed to demonstrate high sensitivity and high positive predictive values to deem a pregnant is in high or low risk group for the adverse pregnancy outcomes. Evidence is lacking to support an association between free beta human chorionic gonadotropin and non-chromosomal adverse pregnancy outcomes. So we focus on low PAPA values and adverse pregnancy outcomes such as gestational hypertension, preeclampsia, preterm birth, intrauterine ex-fetus, gestational diabetes mellitus, intrauterine growth restriction, oligohydramnios, and placental absorption. It's a retrospective cohort study, and specific conditions were excluded. In primary analysis, relations between two cutoff levels and adverse pregnancy outcomes were evaluated. Descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, and raw curve analysis were performed. The traditional academic point system was used to classify the area under curve and association ability. Likelihood ratio, sensitivity, specificity, predictive values, and 95% confidence interval were calculated. Descriptive characteristics of the study group were shown. The percentage distribution of total adverse pregnancy outcomes in the quarter intervals of the PAPA values were shown. The pregnancy distribution of each adverse pregnancy outcome was shown. The associations with extreme cutoff level of PAPA and adverse pregnancy outcomes were shown. The same parameters were also shown at another cutoff level. Raw curve analysis results were shown. A statistically significant backpour association was found between total adverse pregnancy outcomes and low PAPA multiples of median values. The most significant association was found between preeclampsia and the low PAPA values. Association between PAPA values and gestational hypertension, preeclampsia, preterm birth, IUGR, oligohydramnios, placental absorption, fetal demise, gestational diabetes mellitus, and finally total adverse pregnancy outcomes were shown. We found statistically significant correlation between low PAPA values and adverse pregnancy outcomes like other studies. But will these findings have been able to be useful in practice? In animal experiments, it has been shown that blocking of the PAPA gene results in a 40% reduction in fetal development. Smith et al. Found that the pregnant women who had values below the 50th percentile as a result of their PAPA measurements between the gestational weeks had an increased risk of IUGR, preterm birth, preeclampsia, and stillbirth. They suggested that the control of the insulin-like growth factor system in trophoblast in the first and early second trimester may play a key role in determining the prognosis of pregnancy. In our study, we had a statistically significant correlation with intrauterine X fetus, IUGR, preeclampsia, and low level of PAPA. The traditional approach to screening for preeclampsia, which is based on maternal demographic characteristics and medical history, identifies approximately 30% of cases destined to develop early preeclampsia for a false positive rate of 5%. It is necessary to find additional predictive parameters to classify the high-risk pregnancy group. Kuhn et al. Used a combination of mean arterial pressure, placental growth factor, and PAPA multiples of median values to increase the likelihood ratio or post-test probability. In this way, they were aimed at the care of low-risk pregnancies is decentralized to local one-stop settings or at home, whereas high-risk pregnancies are cared for in specialized centers. We were prepared to analyze the predictive values of adverse pregnancy outcomes by likelihood ratio because it can be used to calculate the post-test probability and it is less affected by the prevalence of the adverse pregnancy outcome. This situation provided us that if we directed increased post-test probability, we would have guided the patient to another test and the first test post-probability value could be used as the next test pretest probability. Post-test probability calculating is very important nowadays because we are living in the artificial intelligence century. One of the suitable and calculatable data that can be used in artificial intelligence algorithms may be the post-test probability value. According to the Bayes theorem, the formula may be as shown. Post-test probability of total adverse pregnancy outcome for first pregnancy equal pretest probability EA prevalence multiply positive likelihood ratio of test 1 EA first trimester screening test, test 2 Doppler ultrasonography, test 3 second trimester screening test, test 4 second trimester ultrasonography. For the first pregnancy, total adverse pregnancy outcomes probability may be calculated by this formulation. In first pregnancy, pretest probability may be calculated from prevalence of the total adverse pregnancy outcomes. The total adverse pregnancy outcomes probability of the first pregnancy may be used for the pretest probability of the second pregnancy, and so on for other pregnancies. Taking into account the cutoff level of one test and considering the patient in a high-risk group or not is insufficient to artificial intelligence algorithms. These formulations may be useful for artificial intelligence algorithms to classify, predict, and follow the high-risk pregnant woman in each pregnancy in the National Healthcare Program. To better understand this formulation, it's useful to mention Bayes theorem. Life is a world of opportunities and possibilities. We bear the consequences of the decisions we make. The seemingly small details in our decisions can change a lot. We often try to derive big inferences from small details. Bayes theorem or Bayes rule is the formulation of these probabilities. Bayes theorem is a statistical method used in applied practice to predict the probability of an outcome or event. Post-test probability is calculated based on the pretest probability of the outcome or event based on demographic, prognostic, and clinical factors and the effectiveness or ability of diagnostic tests, sensitivity, and specificity, has been called the most powerful rule of probability and statistics. Likelihood ratios of a diagnostic test can be calculated by sensitivity and specificity. Different types of Bayes algorithms, according to the Bayes theorem, have been used in machine learning in AI. Gaussian naive Bayes algorithm is used to normal classification problems. Multinomial naive Bayes algorithm is used to classify one-verse occurrence. Bernoulli naive Bayes algorithm is used to binary classification problems. Usage of naive Bayes algorithms such as Naive classification, spam filtering, face detection, medical diagnosis, and weather prediction. Bayes' theorem is represented by this formulation in the machine learning algorithms. Given hypothesis A and evidence or data B, Bayes' theorem states that the relationship between the probability of hypothesis before getting the evidence and the probability of the hypothesis after getting the evidence. Naive Bayes classifier is a statistical classification technique and a machine learning model to calculate probability based on Bayes' theorem. It is one of the simplest supervised learning algorithms. Naive Bayes classifier is the fast, accurate, and reliable algorithm and have high accuracy and speed on large dataset. Post-test probability can be calculated with additional tests. This situation can be compared to the case of a judge wanting to have sufficient reliable evidence to make final decision, or a physician requesting the necessary test to make his final decision. Making a correct decision depends on enough reliable evidence to change our bias. Here, the evidence-based pretest and post-test probability classification created by Power et al. Can be used to create decision algorithms when a single cutoff level is insufficient to decide on the diagnostic test. Additional tests can be assisted. Power et al.'s evidence-based classification of post-test probability and naive Bayes algorithm combination may be a method that may help in making medical decisions. If we want to show the formulation of Bayes' theorem and its opportunities, we get an infinity 8. When we look at this infinity 8 from a different angle, we can see this image. Although research results do not show high positive predictive value or post-test probability, we may reach enough post-test probability to make final decision by combining the outcome probabilities of additional tests with the help of Bayes' theorem. The first important point here is that the diagnostic tests for which we get the likelihood ratios should be independent of each other. The second important point is the reliability of the likelihood ratios of the diagnostic test. When the confidence of likelihood ratio results are mentioned, results obtained from meta-analysis come to mind. We can minimize the confidence problem when we use the library of likelihood ratios obtained from meta-analysis. What might be benefits? Follow-up and treatment of all risk groups, including high-risk pregnancies, can be planned nationally and locally. The results of surgery and medical treatments can be followed and classified. Infertility treatments and protocols can be personalized. Individualized success probabilities can be calculated before the treatment. It can be useful in making medical decision processes in artificial intelligence of medicine. Open libraries of likelihood ratio from meta-analysis results of studies can be created as in Python libraries, can be updated with worldwide studies. Data, research, knowledge. In nowadays, the period of memorization is over. Even the accumulation of knowledge on a specific branch has exceeded a human lifetime. We need time, we need help to collect, to store, to classify, to analyze, to decide, and to predict. Artificial intelligence may help us to collect, to store, to classify, to analyze yesterday, to decide today, and to predict future. Women are not a number in a statistical formula. They are our wife, our love, the mother of our children, and the future of humanity. Thank you.